And tonight on our great American panel, he is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Fox News contributor, USA Today columnist Bob Beckel is here. He is an award-winning journalist, the managing editor at WorldNet Daily, and the author of a terrific book called The Marketing of Evil. David Capellian is back with us. She is a freelance writer, columnist for townhall.com. Ashley Herzog is here, and thanks for being with us. All right, so now this New York Times story, which is breaking on Drudge for tomorrow, is that Barack Obama literally is saying that if there is a biological or chemical weapons attack or a crippling cyber attack, that he is stating that the U.S. will not use nuclear weapons. David?
Don't make no sense to me. My hero in this whole realm, like yours, I think, is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan said, peace through strength. If there's a nation in this world that is reliable with having nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, it's the United States of America, and that means that we may have to use them at some point. So to me, that is like, that's on the same level of saying we're going to pull out of Afghanistan on a certain date. It's signaling to the enemy. It's giving them a huge advantage. It doesn't make any sense.
But Bob, even if the United States is attacked with biological, chemical weapons, a crippling cyber attack, we're going to take that off the table? Does that make sense to you?
Well, first of all, let's a cyber attack, we assume, is talking about attacking our computer systems. But
a crippling cyber attack.
Fine, a crippling cyber attack. If you released a chemical weapon in New York City, it would be devastating. The use of a nuclear weapon, the only country that's ever used one is ours, as we know, and it's been
for the right reasons
and a guiding force. Ronald Reagan would not have used a nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon, in response to a chemical attack, would wipe out tens of millions of people.
Why would we take it off the table? We have never done this in history, Bob, and he envisions a world without nukes. I envision a United States that can defeat any enemy, because evil does exist, as David points out. That's what I envision.
Let me go back to your guy's hero here, Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, it was a little over 13 years ago that Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev met at Reykjavik, and they both decided to do away with all nuclear weapons. That was their goal. It is a good goal, and one we ought to have.
From Reykjavik, said a bad deal.
No. They didn't reach agreement, but that's what their goal was. And I think all of our goal ought to be to have a nuclear-free world if we can.
Yeah, you know what? The only problem is evil exists. Isn't that the big problem?
Well, I mean, if you look back at the record, all you ever heard in the 80s was, Ronald Reagan was going to take us into the next Third World War, and, the world was going to explode if he didn't sign this treaty. A couple years later, the Soviet Union falls and gives in. So I don't see why he's doing this or what his reasoning is.
Now, by the way, your latest book is How Evil Works. The Marketing of Evil was your first book.
That's right.
Isn't this fundamentally, if Barack Obama thinks America's arrogant, doesn't believe in American exceptionalism, as past presidents have, gives away our enhanced interrogation techniques, is it that he doesn't understand the nature that terrorists are evil, communist dictatorships are evil, tyrants exist, dictators exist? Does he not get that part?
I think we have a terrible problem right now, Sean. Basically, what we're looking at is, let's say it, can we say it on national TV? We're looking at an attempted socialist coup d'etat in Washington, D.C., and people are really, really unhappy about it. And, the thing about Barack Obama, 53% of us voted for him, 69 million Americans. But this is a guy, I know it sounds crazy, but here's a guy who has been steeped in Marxist ideology for the past 30 years.
Can I just interrupt just for a second? Because I got about had it with you guys on the right on this. The idea that Barack Obama doesn't believe in American exceptionalism is wrong. He has never said it, and he did not give away our enhanced techniques.
Yes, he did.
He did not.
Yes, he did.
He did not.
Can I quote him?
Sure, please do.
Well, America, sure, we believe in American exceptionalism, like what country? Germany?
Like the Greeks.
Like the Greeks believe in their exceptionalism, like wait a minute. That is predicated. If you don't believe America is exceptional, Bob,
I believe he believes that America is exceptional, and the idea of suggesting socialism, Marxism, I would suggest to you, you may write good books, you don't do very good history. If you go back and look at what Marxism is and what socialism is, there is nothing close to either one of them in the United States.
David?
Why is it that it's so difficult to speak the truth in this day and age? Here's a guy. Here's a guy who, as a teenager, was mentored by a card-carrying communist, Frank Marshall Davis. He goes to college where he writes in his own book, Dreams from My Father, that he was attracted to the, quote, Marxist professors. Out of college, he goes into community organizing, which was dreamed up by Chicago Marxist Saul Alinsky. And then, as you pointed out many times before the election, he started his political career in the living room of another Chicago Marxist and unrepentant, you know,
terrorist.
Pentagon bomber, you know, terrorist, William Ayers. And yet, if somebody comes on and says, well, gee, I wonder if it's possible this guy is a socialist or even has, you know, has Marxist ideas,
You know,
we're looked at like
Let me
exercise.
let Ashley respond, because we're running out of time. Ashley, go ahead.
I don't know if I'd go as far to call him a Marxist. I think, yeah, I think it's relevant to bring up who has influenced him over the course of his life, and you know, his connections to people who
Is Barack
really
Obama
are.
the most radical president that you've studied in American history? Because
Yes.
I think he's the most radical.
He is, yes,
He's
the most left
radical.
wing.
You think he's the
Yes.
most radical?
Definitely.
I think the most radical.
Let me just
3 to 1.
let me just say this. You want to try to be a nice guy tonight and be all the rest of that. Let me tell you something. The idea that the president of the United States is a Marxist is, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth to Joe McCarthy calling people in the State Department a communist, and you ought to apologize for it.
I said socialist.
You
I said
ought to
he's been
apologize
full
for it.
of Marxist ideology. He's been marinating in it for 30 years.
And you take these things like Hannity does, these little people throughout his life, and call them a Marxist. I mean, that's going way over the line, man.
Would you ever sit on a board with Bill Ayers?
Sure, I would. If it was a social networking board in
Take a break.
Chicago, sure.
Checkmate. We'll
I'd
come
sit
back.
on one
We'll
with
continue.
you.